Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about davening. Davening, once upon a time, was a clear conduit to God. When Shlomo HaMelech dedicated the first Beis HaMikdash, he uses the words that you're all familiar with from the first night of Slichot, in which he says, Ufanita tfilat avdecha v'tchinato Hashem Elokai, you shall turn and listen to the prayers of your various servants, Lishmoa elarina ve'ela tfilah, exactly the words we use in that famous piyut on the first night of Slichos, asher avadecha mitpalel lefanecha hayom, that they pray before you today. And then he goes on to say, your eyes should always be open to this place, namely to the Beis HaMikdash. Ela makom asher amata yesh misham, lishmoa latfilah, asher yitpalel avdecha lamakom hazeh. To always listen to the prayers that your servants pray towards this place. And indeed, the Jewish people didn't live in the Beis HaMikdash. They lived all around Israel and all around the world. And therefore, they always faced the Beis HaMikdash because all prayers have to bounce off Har HaBayit to get to that direct pipe to God. In the words of the Shulchan Aruch, when you get up to daven, if you stand outside of Israel, then Yachzir Panav Keneged Eretz Yisrael, you shall face Israel. And have in mind that your prayer has to eventually get to Har HaBayit, to that pipe that goes up to God, that Shlomo dedicated. And if you're in Israel, you face Yerushalayim, and if in Yerushalayim, you face the Mikdash, etc. So it should have worked perfectly. But the Gemara comes along and says, in two different places in Shas, in Bava Metzia Taf Nun Tet Amud Aleph, as well as Brachot Taf Lamed Bet Amud Bet, V'Amar Rabbi Elazar, Miyom Shecharav Beit HaMikdash Nin'alu Sha'arei Tfilah. From the day that the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, the gates, this conduit, this pipe, has been locked. Quoting a pasuk from Eicha in the third perek, Gam ki ezak v'ashavea satam tfilati. I could be screaming out the best prayer in my life, but satam tfilati, you shut the gate. You shut out my prayer. If that's the case, what about this podcast? What about what we did 3 times a day? If the gates are closed, why daven at all? Even though the Gemara says, Miyom shecharav Beit HaMikdash nifsaka chomat barzel ben Yisrael avim shabashamayim. There is an actual wall of steel between God and the Jewish people. Comes along the Gemara and says there's one kind of prayer that still goes through. Not through the Sha'arei Tfilah, the pipe of prayer, but through the pipe of tears. In the words of the Gemara, Sha'arei Tfilah nin'alu, Sha'arei dim'ah lo nin'alu. The gates of tears, a real, authentic prayer, has not been locked. Now you can understand why Rosh Hashanah is, why it's not a hefsek to blow shofar in the middle of Chazarat HaShatz. No one would think in their right mind to eat matzah in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei and the Seder night. No one in their right mind would think I'll go to the sukkah, eat a meal, and come back and continue my Amidah. The shofar is a vehicle of prayer, not just a regular prayer with words, an authentic prayer with tears, literally with a shvarim and a truah. Rosh Hashanah is called Yom Truah, which literally means Yom Yevavon Yelechon. It's a day of crying, as the Gemara understands it. If it was just a day of prayer, then in our reality without a temple, our prayers wouldn't go through. We need to add that additional level of tears through the shofar, either through a shvarim or a truah, in order to elevate our prayers, bringing up our prayers to God against all odds that are against us in a reality without a temple. Once upon a time, you could daven and direct pipe to God. God could say yes, God could say no. That's not the case today. You got to get to the additional level of dim'ah, of tears. So, it's no wonder that the Medrash says, Kol mishu mitpalel b'Yerushalayim, ki'ilu mitpalel lifnei kisei hakavod. Whoever davens in Jerusalem, it's like he's davening in front of the holy throne of God. Because, as we all know, Yaakov Avinu stood there on Har HaBayit on that famous night where he slept, And he said, Zeh Shara Shamayim, this is the gate to heaven. Sheshara Shamayim hu sham, ufetach patuach lishmoa tefillah. However, what you're about to hear is totally inappropriate. This is a typical example of taking words, putting a happy tune to them, even though they're the saddest words in the world. It doesn't say there that if you daven in Yerushalayim, you're standing in front of God, like Shlomo HaMelech said. It says ki'ilu, as if you're standing in front of the throne of God. Make a happy, clappy song. V'zeh Shara Shamayim makes absolutely no sense. It's only a ki'ilu, it's only an as if. And indeed, the Shulchan Aruch knows this. When Rav Yosef Karo codifies the laws of prayer, he says, Tzarich sheyakuf rosho me'at sheyeh anav lemata la'aretz. When you daven, you're supposed to put your head a little down, humbly. V'yachshav ki'ilu omed beveit hamikdash. And you shall think as if you're standing in the Beis Hamikdash. But it's not the real thing. It's as if. So if that's the case, how does God listen to our prayers? If we don't get to the level of dim'ah, of tears, how will God listen? On the most important day for prayer, the day that God literally decides who shall live and who shall die, Rosh Hashanah, and then eventually Yom Kippur. You all know the piyut that talks about who shall live and who shall die, starting with the words Unetane Tokef. How do we end it? We say the words, Aseh leman shemecha, do for your name, God, v'kadesh et shimcha al makdishei shemecha. Sanctify your name through those that sanctify it. Medrash in Yalkut Shimoni says that when God looks in the world and sees all these great buildings and everyone's sitting there saying, these are good buildings, they made out of steel, no one can take them down, but his temple, his charev, is destructed, he thinks he should destroy the whole world. What saves the world? Kevan sheYisrael nichasim shacharit lebate knesiyot ubate midrashot umiyachadim shmo va'omim Shema Yisrael. When the Jewish people come in the morning, and in shul they say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, then the malachim come before God and say, Atahu shelo nivra ha'olam. You were there before the world was created. Atahu mishenivra ha'olam. You were there after the world was created. Atahu ba'olam hazeh v'atahu lo'olam haba. You're in this world, you're in the next world. Kadesh et shimcha makdishei shemecha. Sanctify your name through those that sanctify it. Miyad nachadato shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu ve'eino machriv olamo. Therefore God does not destroy the world. Achahu diktiv, says the Medrash, shemiyashev dato b'shvil tehilot Yisrael. When we say va'ata kadosh, you are sanctified, yoshev tehilot Yisrael, sitting on the praises of Israel, it literally means when the Jewish people praise you in shul, this is what saves the world. So when as if it is, we're mourning for it because we want to get back to a time where there's that direct pipe of davening. Until then, we have two things going for us. A prayer with tears, and number two, going into shul, saying Shema together with others.
Koin lach shon tshov voyf kovo shel yechain megili ay ki ya tu ram sli khoyts oy oy oy